Call your next witness.
Thank you, Judge. The state calls Michael Abraham.
Sorry, just watch your step. Go up there. Just put your left hand on the Bible, raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Okay. Once you're seated and comfortable, can you state your full name for the record and spell your last name, please?
Sure.
Thank you.
My name is Michael Abraham, Abraham.
Thank you. Prosecutor, go ahead.
Thank you, Judge. Mr. Abraham, can you tell us where you work?
I work for the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives, better known as ATF.
Okay. And approximately how long have you worked for the ATF?
Coming up on 10 years now.
And do you have a specific title or role with the ATF?
Yes, I'm a forensic electrical engineer.
Okay. Now, before we go any further, I just want permission to approach.
That's right.
I want to show you what's been marked as S252 for identification. Do you recognize that?
Yes,
What is that?
a copy of my CV.
Okay. And does that document your educational background?
Yes,
How about your work history?
it does, yes.
Does it document training and essentially training that you received in the course of your career, both with the ATF and also before?
Yes.
Now, can you just give us the benefit of your educational background?
Sure. I have a bachelor's degree in electrical and computer engineering. I have additional advanced training in fire investigation and forensic analysis for electrical systems and other mechanical systems. And as a part of my education, training, and experience, I also obtained licensure as a professional engineer in the state of New Jersey currently, as well as other states.
Okay. Now, so you talked about graduating with the electrical engineering degree, correct?
Mm-hmm.
And where was that from?
Rutgers University.
Now, after obtaining that degree, did you go into the workforce?
I did, yeah.
And what did you do specifically?
I was a design consultant for mechanical, electrical, and plumbing systems for design and construction associated with them throughout the New York City metro area.
Okay. And now, at some point you transitioned to the ATF, you said, correct?
That's correct.
Now, is part of what the ATF does is investigating fires and explosions and things like that?
Yes, ATF has federal jurisdiction for fire investigations.
Okay. Now, when we talk about that and your interest in potentially moving to the ATF, did you have any experience in, fire fighting or fire investigations prior to joining the ATF?
Yeah, in addition to being a licensed professional engineer for over the past 20 years, I've been a firefighter in the state of New Jersey, as well as an emergency medical technician. And towards the end of my design consulting experience, I participated in a number of forensic situations evaluating design failures, construction failures, and resulting fires as well.
Okay. Had you ever, in that capacity, worked with the ATF before you actually worked for the ATF or no?
Not worked for the ATF, however, I had taken some training classes offered by some of their personnel in fire investigation.
Okay. And ultimately, as you said, you accepted a position with the ATF, correct?
That's correct.
Now, was there any specific training that you needed to undergo upon your initial hire?
Yeah, so we take the training required essentially for fire investigation for ATF fire investigators, which includes coursework at the National Fire Academy for fire investigations, coursework in advanced electrical fire investigations, courtroom testimony, and other similar courses.
Okay. Now, after after doing that initial training that you just talked about, did you undergo or have you undergone any specific, other advanced fire investigation training?
Yeah, I routinely participate in fire investigation-related training to stay current on advanced topics and evolving topics. And I also instruct as a part of ongoing delivery of fire investigation-related topics around the country and internationally as well.
And where have you instructed?
The National Fire Academy for several fire academies around the country, including New York and New Jersey, to name a few. Internationally at the International Law Enforcement Academy in locations like Thailand and El Salvador, and as well as other venues such as conferences where engineers, attorneys, fire investigators, law enforcement, and members of the fire service attend for advanced training.
Okay. Now, with respect to any particular certifications you might hold in the field of electrical engineering as it relates to fire investigation or just fire investigation, can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, so in addition to being a professional engineer, I'm also a certified fire investigator with the International Association of Arson Investigators and the state of New Jersey.
And those certifications, do they require testing or do they require certain requirements that you need to undergo?
Yeah, there's the IAAI certification requires a combination of experience with fire investigation, testing, as well as education, background, and coursework.
Now, during the course of your training and your career at the ATF, or otherwise, have you learned about the NFPA 921 and 1033?
Yes.
Okay. And the 921 is what, if you could tell us?
Guide to Fire and Explosion Investigation.
Okay. Is that a method that's generally accepted in the field of origin and cause investigations in the United States?
Yes, it outlines a methodology that can be used for origin and cause investigations.
Okay. Now, are you a member of any professional organizations or on any committees or the like?
Yeah, as far as organizations are concerned, I've been a member of IEEE, so that's the Institute for Electrical and Electronics Engineers, for over 20 years, or 15 years or so. The National Fire Protection Association, IAAI, as I mentioned. As far as committee work, yes, I serve on NFPA, the newly created NFPA 800, for example, which is the battery safety code as representative from ATF on lithium battery-involved fires. I serve on the Underwriters Laboratory Fire Safety Research Institute Wildland Urban Interface Advisory Committee because of my experience in wildland fire investigations. I serve on their Electric Vehicle First Responder Safety Advisory Board for providing guidance for first responders on how to deal with electric vehicle fires. And then there's been numerous others in the past that have concluded there.
Now, as part of your job responsibilities, do you often engage in cooperative investigation with other agencies?
Yes, I obviously work at ATF with ATF special agents for investigations, but the majority of my work is actually providing technical assistance to state and local investigative entities.
Okay. Now, Mr. Abraham, based upon your time with the ATF and your experience in the field, have you had the opportunity or have you been asked to testify in a court of law regarding your work specifically with the electrical aspects of fire investigations?
Yes, I've testified as an expert witness in local, state, federal, and military court.
And approximately how many times, if you know?
Approximately 6 or 7 times.
Okay. And during the course of those testimonies, have you been offered as an expert in the field specifically of electrical and electromechanical engineering matters as they pertain to origin and cause investigations?
Yes.
Okay. And were you accepted by those courts as an expert in that regard?
Yes.
Your Honor, at this time, the state would offer Michael Abraham as an expert in the field of electrical and electromechanical engineering matters as they pertain to the origin and cause of fires and explosions.
You may want to say that again, considering it was very long.
I tried to say it very slowly, but
Yeah.
I
was trying to write it down, but I didn't do well in school, so we'll start over again.
Electrical and electromechanical engineering matters as they pertain to the origin and cause of fires and explosions.
Any objection? Sure. All right, so for the record, the defense does not have an objection.
Short version?
As a general rule, witnesses can only testify to facts known by them. This rule ordinarily does not permit to be received as evidence the opinion of a witness who is not testifying as an expert. However, an exception to this rule exists in the case of an expert witness who may give their opinion as to any matter in which they are versed, which is material to the case. In legal terminology, an expert witness is a witness who has some special knowledge, skill, experience, or training that is not possessed by the ordinary juror, and who thus may be able to provide assistance to the jury in understanding the evidence presented and determine the facts in the case. You're not bound by such expert's opinion, but you should consider the opinion and give it the weight to which you deem it is entitled, whether great or slight, or you may reject it. In examining an expert's opinion, you may consider the reasons given for it, if any, and you may also consider the qualifications and credibility of the expert. It is always within the special function of the jury to determine whether the facts on which the answer or testimony of an expert is actually, I tried to fly through it. It is always within the special function of the jury to determine whether the facts on which the answer or testimony of an expert is based actually exist. The value or weight of the opinion of the expert is dependent upon and is no stronger than the facts on which it is based. In other words, the probative value of the opinion will depend upon whether from all of the evidence in the case you find those facts are true. You may in fact determine from the evidence in the case that the facts that form the basis of the opinion are true, are not true, or true only in part. And in such, you should decide what effect such determination has upon the weight to be given to the opinion of the expert. Your acceptance or rejection of the expert opinion will depend, therefore, to some extent on your findings as to the truth of the facts relied upon. You and you alone are the sole fact finders of this case, and you must be persuaded solely by the evidence presented at trial when determining whether the state has satisfied its burden. As the sole judges of the facts, you are to determine the credibility of the various witnesses as well as the weight to be afforded to their testimony to determine whether the state has proven beyond a reasonable doubt all elements of the crimes charged. So, just to give you context, so yesterday we went through a couple DNA experts. I didn't re-give you the charge because I'd given it to you for what a DNA expert would be. Today we're going into a different area. We had DNA this morning. Now we're going into an engineer. That's why I wanted to give it to you just as a reminder one more time. But I do understand that you are very well versed in that charge. I appreciate it. But I just want to make sure the record is clear that I've given that to you. I do respect the fact that you've listened the first 12 times I've given it to you. I was exaggerating. Mr. Decker, go ahead.
Mr. Abraham, I want to ask you about your involvement in a fire incident that occurred on November 20th, 2018 in Colts Neck, New Jersey. Okay? Are you aware of that?
Yes.
Okay. Was there a point in time that you received a request to assist other agencies, including the ATF,
Yes.
in that investigation?
Yes.
Okay. And where did that request come from?
That request came from Special Agent Certified Fire Investigator Jesse Lamf, who's
Okay.
now retired but active at the time.
Active with the ATF?
That's correct.
Okay. So he reached out to you about your assistance?
Yes, he reached out to me and asked for my assistance with a fire in Colts Neck in Monmouth County to assist the Monmouth County Fire Marshal's office as well as the prosecutor's office and the local police with an investigation.
Okay. Now, was there a point in time when you physically responded to that Colts Neck address?
Yes.
Okay. Do you recall the date?
November 24th, I think it was, in 2018.
Now, just before we go any further, I should ask you, I'm going to approach and show you what's been marked as S-253 for identification. Do you recognize that, sir?
Yes.
And what is that?
It's a copy of the engineering report I authored as a result of my scene examination.
Now, you said, I think you said, did you say November 24th, 2018 is the day you believe you responded?
That's correct, and that's what's documented on my report.
Okay, and when you responded to that location on that date, did you meet with other individuals from some of the agencies that were involved?
Yes, I met with the investigators on scene at the time.
And was it your understanding upon arrival that an origin and cause investigation had already begun prior to your involvement?
That's correct.
Okay. Now, as part of your response that day, did you receive, I don't want to know exactly what it is, but did you receive information relating to like what had been discovered thus far in the investigation?
Yes, typically in a case where I get involved after the fact, which I oftentimes say what ATF stands for, I get brought up to speed on how the investigation has taken place so far. So I need to have information on what they've seen, what they've moved, what they've looked at.
Okay. Now, so just to be clear, you said you were contacted by Special Agent Jesse Lamp from the ATF, or then from the ATF, correct?
Correct.
Was he an individual who was involved in assisting in the origin and cause?
Yes. Typically, my involvement in investigation comes by way of an ATF special agent being involved, who is also assisting a state or local entity with their investigation.
Okay. And your specific, the reason specifically why they ask you to come to the scene is what?
Be able to consider the electrical aspects of the fire investigation or electromechanical aspects for any contributing factors for the origin and cause to consider.
Now, the people you work with, like Jesse Lamp from the ATF, you said he's a certified fire investigator, correct? Is that accurate?
Correct.
Is he an electrician?
No.
Okay. Now, so I want to take you to your response on November 24th of 2018 to Colts Neck. Can you tell us about, you told us about what you knew. Can you tell us about what you did when you got there?
So typically, a scene examination for a fire involves evaluating, first and foremost, the power system from the outside of the structure working its way in. This includes all the sources of power. So this could be your utility connection, which could be PSE&G, JCP&L that you guys may be familiar with, or any other utility provider, and any other sources of power on the scene which would allow for the scene to remain energized. And if it is energized, we're considering any of those potential sources of ignition or any information forensically that they may provide related to determining the origin of a fire.
So when you go to the scene that day, do you go inside or do you start outside?
Start on the outside.
Why do you do that?
Try to have an understanding of the state of everything at the time of the scene examination. So are things connected to be able to provide power in the first place? Are things on? Are things off, etc.?
Now, is that the idea that you start outside? Is that also something that's consistent with fire investigation generally?
Yes, generally it would be consistent with the methodology that's used for a fire investigation.
And that would be as defined by the NFPA 921, the scientific method, so to speak?
Correct. Yeah, the scientific method and NFPA 921 utilize that as an example of how you would approach for your methodology for investigating a scene.
Okay. So you talk about trying to locate areas on the exterior of the home where power could be provided, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And can you talk about the ones that you, or I guess, just generally tell us the ones that you identified, and then we'll talk about each individual.
So we have an electric utility meter that typically provides utility-provided power. So we're investigating whether or not that was involved providing active power at the time of the incident. This location also had a generator, which has to be considered as an alternate source of power. And this location also had a solar array, which can also be considered an alternate source of power.
So we talk about the actual electrical panel, correct?
The electrical meter on the outside, yep.
Okay, the electrical meter, you got a solar panel array on the property, right?
That's right.
And then you talked about the generator, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. Now, I want to just, if I could, I'm going to ask for the back table. SNC. Can I just have slide 218 first? Mr. Abraham, do you recognize what you're looking at there?
Mr. Decker, just tell us, is it one
I'm sorry, Judge, it's 1C.
1C.
Slide
Okay, thank you.
218.
Yes.
Okay, what are you looking at there, sir?
The object on the wall next to the doorway over there, the opening with the glass and all that, is the meter base.
Okay. And can I have slide 219 of the same? Do you recognize that?
Yeah, that's the meter base that I mentioned for the primary incoming electric service from the utility.
Now, if you could just explain, based upon your recollection, and if you need to refer to your report, please feel free, your observations of that meter panel on November 24th, 2018.
So at the time of my scene examination, the cover was off and the meter was out of the socket, just like you see it in this photograph. And this is actually a bypass meter. So if you look on the right-hand side of that box, there's a lever. I observed that in the position that it is down right now.
Okay, what does the position of that lever represent as you found it and as it is in that photo?
So this type of meter socket allows you to bypass the meter, so that way when you pull it for servicing or any type of maintenance work, you can allow power to remain connected from the utility, so you don't have a loss of power. In order for that to be the case, the cover has to come off, the handle has to be in the off position, and then you can pull the meter out. With the meter being out and the handle being down, it means that there was no utility power at the time of my examination being provided to the scene.
Okay, now, as part of, obviously you talked about the joke about the after the fact thing. I mean, is that normally how you would respond to a scene of a fire after the fact?
Yes.
And based upon that, and particularly as an expert evaluating potentially electrical causes of a fire, do you sometimes have to rely on information that you get from others?
Yes.
Okay, and during the course of this evaluation and this response, did you inquire as to how this panel was found, not on November 24th, but on November 20th?
Yes, I asked the investigators on scene, as well as the power company and the fire department, to determine whether or not this meter assembly looked like this prior to my arrival, or if it had been manipulated since. Because part of our investigation is to also make the scene safe for investigators, so you don't get accidentally electrocuted or shocked. And it's not uncommon where during fire suppression operations, somebody could disconnect power in a variety of ways. The utility might respond out to disconnect power. So interviewing people and determining the state at the time of the fire and immediately after the fire and at the time when I arrive is important to make a determination on its role for the overall investigation.
And just in case you didn't say it, I mean, this is consistent based upon your understanding with the way it was found November 20th.
Yes, based upon my conversation with the investigators, the utility company, and the fire department personnel, it was found in this state and nobody had manipulated it.
And based upon this state, what, if any, conclusions do you make or can you make about electrical power supplied to the home?
At the time of the incident and the subsequent investigation, primary power from the utility was not active. It was disconnected.
Now, you also talked about how utilities get shut off at fires. Are you aware of that based upon your experience, both with the ATF but also as a firefighter yourself?
Yes.
Now, when a utility company comes, and do they sometimes pull the meter?
They can.
Okay, and if they were to pull the meter, would they leave it, based upon your experience, in a condition like this?
No.
Okay. So was there a point in time after this evaluation that you moved on to that generator you spoke about?
Yes.
Okay. Can I have, it's S1C still, slide 222? Do you recognize that photo?
Yes, that's the generator at the scene.
Okay. And did you, can you tell us how you went about evaluating that generator on that date?
So, as I mentioned, part of the goals are to make the scene safe. So if you remove primary power from the utility, an alternate source of power could be a generator running on scene. So one of my approaches was to determine if the generator could accidentally turn on. And additionally, to determine, just like with the utility power, the state at which it was in at the time of the initial investigation immediately after the incident, as well as by the time I got there.
So, based upon how you found it on November 24th, 2018, how was that?
So, based upon my examination at the time of when I was on scene, the main breaker was in the off position for the generator. The on-off auto switch, which allows it to either turn on, be off, or automatically run depending on loss of power, was in the off position. And the gas valve associated with the gas train providing natural gas to this natural gas generator was in the off position.
Okay. Now, just when you first talked about the main electrical breaker being off, correct? Mm-hmm. Okay. Just for clarity's sake, can I have slide 230, please? Do you recognize what that depicts on that generator?
Yes, that's that main breaker that's in the off position that I mentioned.
Okay. Now, while we're there, did you make any efforts to determine how that main breaker got to the off position?
So similar to the meter, I inquired with the first responders, the fire department, the initial investigators to determine the gas company, to determine if anybody manipulated any of these controls to the state that they were in.
Okay. And that one was how did that get off? Based
The
upon
fire department confirmed that they turned that to the off position during fire suppression operations.
And can I have slide 227 of S1C, please? You recognize what that is?
Yes,
What's that?
the control panel, again, like I was mentioning, for the generator.
And is the auto on-off switch that you referred to, is that included within those controls?
That's correct.
And as to how that got to the off position on November 20th, did you inquire in that regard?
I did. None of the investigators, none of the first responding personnel, and the utility stated that they didn't manipulate the controls for the generator at this point. I also inquired about recent maintenance that may have occurred on the generator to try and figure out the state it would have been left in prior to this incident.
Okay, and what did you learn, if anything, about the recent maintenance to the generator?
If I can refer to my report.
Could you just identify the S number, sir?
This
Red sticker?
is going to be S253.
Thank you.
Yeah, on page 2, I mentioned that based on the maintenance records, the unit was actually last serviced on November 5th, 2018, and it was left operational in the auto position.
No issue, based upon the information from the company that services it, no identifiable issues as of November 5th.
As of November 5th, they didn't describe any conditions that would prevent the generator from automatically operating, right?
And the generator, the auto on-off switch was off as first responders found it based upon the information you were provided.
That's correct.
Now, with respect to the solar panel array, was that something that you made observations of on the date November 24th?
Yes, similar to the generator and the electrical service, I examined the solar array and its main disconnect to determine if the status of it.
And we've seen a lot of photos of that, but disconnects were how? Just to be clear, as you found it?
I found it in the off position.
Okay. Now, did you inquire as to whether or not any first responders or fire officials actually shut it off on November 20th, 2018?
Correct.
And did they?
Yes, I believe that they did.
Okay. So it had been shut off by first responders in an abundance of caution, I imagine, correct?
Correct, as a part of the fire suppression response, right?
Now, with respect to that panel, the solar panel array, the disconnect, I guess, or let's strike that. At the time of the fire, it appears it would have been on, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And what, if any, effect would that have on backup power to 15 Willowbrook?
So with the disconnect being on, if the solar array was functional, it would be able to provide an alternate source of power to circuits in the structure.
Okay. Was this the type of solar panel array that actually was designed to provide backup power?
Only if the line connection was still intact, meaning if utility power was present, the solar system, via its connection to the inverter, can provide power to the house.
So the solar panel would have, the way it was set up, would have needed power to the structure in order to operate.
That's correct.
So if power was cut, it would not be a source of backup power.
That's correct. There's an interconnection between the solar system and the house, so that way when it loses primary power from the utility, the solar system isn't able to provide an alternate source of power to anything in the house.
Now, was there a point in time when you and then potentially others entered the structure on November 24th, 2018?
Yes.
And what was the purpose of that?
So continuing my examination, I moved into the structure from power on the outside to look at fire damaged areas and any electrical infrastructure or components that may have been involved.
And let me just ask you this, because were you with others on that date?
Yes.
And were they part of the team involved in the origin and cause investigation?
Yes.
And based upon information that was provided to you, can you talk about where specifically you went inside the residence and kind of like what order?
One of the primary areas that the investigative team had identified as an area of interest during their investigation was a cedar-lined closet in the basement.
Okay. And again, you're now relying on information from others, is that accurate?
Yes.
And that's to get you to the right place, right?
Yes, they can. The focus of my examination can be narrowed based on the totality of the investigation by investigators asking me to consider items of interest.
Okay. And when you were directed to that basement, specifically that cedar closet, did what you saw, or what you saw, was it corroborated by information that you were provided?
Yes, they described a fire-damaged closet, as well as the damage up into the ceiling structure and other fire-damaged areas. So I took a look at those areas to consider all of the structural wiring that would have been in those areas to see if they could have had any evidence of failure or anything like that, and it was supported by what they were asking me to look at, yeah.
Okay. Now, your evaluation of electrical wiring in the basement, and specifically, at or around that closet, can you talk about like what you're looking at and what you're looking for?
Sure. So energized electrical systems during the normal course of operation produce heat. If there's a failure as a result of a number of reasons, it can cause a fire. So one of the things that I'm looking for is any potential evidence, forensically, physically, that may have contributed to the cause of a fire. So I'm looking for forensic evidence resulting from that. Similarly, if a fire occurs and damages energized electrical infrastructure, you can have a failure as a result of the insulation being compromised and melted, things short circuit, and I'm looking for evidence of arc melting typically on wiring, which presents itself with unique physical characteristics because of the high intensity event that occurs during a short circuit. It basically can create little spherical balls and other pieces of forensic evidence to look at to confirm that something was energized at the time of the fire. And then using that, you can determine if it's an area based on influences physically, mechanically, or whatever it may be that could have resulted in a failure and then subsequently cause a fire. Or it could serve as evidence that a fire occurred and caused a failure as fire progressed and moved throughout the space.
Okay, so you're making observations and evaluations regarding areas of electrical power within the home.
Correct.
Specifically in that cedar closet area, correct?
Correct.
And you're looking, correct me if I'm wrong, you're looking at whether or not ultimately, can I determine, was power on when the fire started, or was power not on when the fire started?
Right. The evidence of that arc melting or other types of failures would be supported by whether or not power was on or off at the time of the failure during the fire.
And I know you mentioned it twice. I just want to be clear. What is arc melting?
So arc melting is the process by which the physical characteristics that occur when a short circuit happens. So arc melting itself is a high-intensity, short-duration event that melts metallic material in the electrical system. as a result of flow of current that's unintended. So instead of flowing through the circuit normally, where it may be providing light, heat, whatever it may be, you have a short circuit and it goes through an unintended path, and all of the available power goes through at once. It melts the metal in that location and provides what's known as arc melting.
Now, was there evidence of arc melting in the basement of 15 Willowbrook in Colts Neck?
No, I examined all of the circuits in that area and all of the other items for consideration, and there was no evidence of arc melting in that area.
And as an electrical engineer investigating origin and cause, what does that mean to you?
That would be consistent with the space where that fire occurred being de-energized at the time of the fire.
And when we say de-energized, we mean what?
No power on at the time.
Now, I think in your report you also referenced the fact that you made evaluations or observations of electrical panel in the basement. Is that accurate?
Correct. We're following power from the outside of the structure to the area of interest, and that would be through the electrical distribution panel, so where your circuit breakers or fuses would be. So I had to examine that as well for consideration.
Now, what exactly are you looking at that panel in order to assist you in, confirming that de-energized state?
So in a properly designed, installed, operating, and maintained electrical system, if you do have a fault as a result of a fire or a failure that results in a fire, the system is supposed to stop that from continuing to occur by tripping a circuit breaker. I'm sure you've experienced this. So I'm looking at the panel to see if there's any evidence of tripped circuit breakers that could have de-energized the space at the time of the failure or fire.
And did you find any evidence of tripped circuit breakers in the basement of 15 Willowbrook?
No.
Okay, meaning what, based upon that?
So because the power was disconnected, the power was likely disconnected, which resulted in the inability for a short circuit to occur, which didn't cause the tripping of the circuit breaker. So it was all consistent with what I was looking at.
Okay. During the course of your evaluation, do you also look for fire alarms or fire alarm systems?
Yes, we consider, in addition to the electrical data, we consider the availability of any electronic data. This could include things like intrusion alarm system, security system. It can be a fire alarm system. And we did identify that there was a fire alarm system present at the structure.
Okay. Now, with respect to that fire alarm system and the need for power, can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, so typically the fire alarm system requires power either directly from line voltage or battery backup power or one of those alternate sources of power for it to properly operate and indicate the activation, whether from any of the devices connected to it.
Now, I don't know if I asked you earlier, but when we were talking about the electrical meter on the outside, did you evaluate that in order to determine whether or not it was like a smart meter or would retain any data?
I did, yes. I contacted the metering department at JCP&L to determine if there was any, if the meter was in fact a smart meter, which could potentially have stored locally or remote information as to when power was on or off.
Were you able to, or did you learn whether or not actually there would be data available?
Yeah, they affirmed that there was no smart meter data available for use in the investigation.
Now, was anything within the basement also evaluated or tested later to determine potential for smart data being available?
Yeah, so going back to the fire alarm system, there was one located in, the main panel was located in the basement. By the time I got involved and power was disconnected, you're now relying upon any potential stored information in the fire alarm system memory. So depending on the make and model, information can be stored, it may not be stored depending on how long power has been disconnected, a number of factors. So we did retain that panel as evidence to be examined at a later date, and I did participate in an examination with a fire alarm system specialist to determine if any information could be obtained. I also contacted the manufacturer, and we evaluated that for any stored information that could be used in the origin and cause determination of the fire.
Were you able to obtain any data that was helpful in that regard?
No. I confirmed with the manufacturer that the panel in question didn't store information once power was lost. In addition to that, the fire alarm specialist wasn't able to obtain any stored information on the panel itself for use.
Now, did part of your evaluation in the basement, did it focus on telecommunications to the home?
Yeah, so we're evaluating a number of different components electrically in the space, including the electronic information that we talked about, which requires typically a telecommunications connection to communicate with the outside, whether it be telephone lines, internet service, or any smart devices that may have electronic information, such as smart Nest devices, things of that nature that you may be familiar with. So we were evaluating if that service was intact or not.
Now, did you locate the source of the telecommunications in the
Yes.
basement?
I was able to identify an ONT optical network terminal in the basement associated with Verizon that we were able to determine was the internet service provider for the location.
And now, how fair to say, let me ask you, had that been identified by others prior to your arrival?
Yes.
And based upon that, did you take a look at it? Did you make any observations?
Yes, looking for any evidence of failure that could have prevented it from operating, any evidence of failure that would have resulted from any other factors as well.
Okay. Could I just have the back table for a moment? I'm going to go to S1E, slide 36, please. Mr. Abraham, do you recognize what that photo shows?
Yes, that shows the Verizon ONT I mentioned.
Okay. And then can I have slide 37? Do you recognize that?
Yes.
What's that show?
That's the severed fiber optic cable for the incoming telecom service for the Verizon system.
Okay. And based upon your experience and your evaluation of that cut line, what, if any, determinations or conclusions did you draw with respect to telecom services?
That because of this severed line, at some point, the telecommunications capability of the structure with anything that's connected via telephone or internet service, such as Wi-Fi, that would be required to communicate over this fiber optic cable wouldn't be able to do so at that time.
Would that affect, ultimately, if things that had batteries but needed to communicate via Wi-Fi?
Correct, yes. Even though you've lost primary power, potentially like we described with the lack of power from the incoming service, if you had battery backup but still had an active telecommunications connection, it could still potentially communicate.
Could that telecom line, the Verizon ONT line, could it affect the smoke alarm's ability to communicate with the outside world?
Right, so the fire alarm system, depending on its connection, whether it's over the telephone or however it's interconnected, requires a telecommunications connection to transmit to the outside world, and this would have prevented that at that time as well.
Now, I think at some point you were also made some observations with respect to the staircase down to the area in the basement. Is that accurate?
So I believe so, yes.
Okay. And was there something that was identified in the stairwell to the basement that needed to be evaluated by yourself and or others?
Yes, in addition to structural wiring, I take a look at any potential appliances, artifacts, meaning just like a melted, resolidified plastic blob that may have electrical components in it or whatnot. And I believe that there was a device, at the time it was undetermined as to what it could have been, so it was collected for further examination from that area.
Okay. Could I just have slide 52 of S1E staying there? Do you recognize that generally?
Yeah, that was that item.
Okay. And slide 53, please. And that item is what?
So I sent it back to our forensic laboratory to have an x-ray done, and I was able to determine that it's an autonomous robotic vacuum, so AKA similar to like a Roomba or something.
And what's the purpose of you actually evaluating this for your purposes?
So we consider the potential for anything electrical or electronic to have a failure that could result in a fire. So by taking a look at this, it's obviously fire damage, thermally damaged on the other side. So visually you can't tell. So by taking an x-ray of it, I could take a look at the electronic components, the connections, the mechanical and the metallic parts that, if a failure had occurred resulting in a fire, would have forensic evidence of a failure, and this one did not.
Okay. So was it fair to say that you didn't believe that this played any part in the cause of the fire at 15 Willowbrook.
That's correct. I was able to determine that there was no evidence of failure resulting in fire causation from this device.
Now, I think in drawing your attention to the report that's in front of you, and just want to double check that number.
Okay, so we're looking at, sorry about that. We're looking at S253, right? And on that last page, is there a
Portion of the report where you talk about conclusions that you made based upon your electromechanical investigation?
Yes,
Okay. Now, there's a few listed there, correct?
correct.
Can you talk about that first one under the conclusion section?
Stated that there was no evidence of electrical failure observed on the observable components within the fire damaged structure.
Okay. Because, I don't know if you said it earlier, but I think you did, but part of your reason for being there is to make sure or to rule out accidental electrical causes, correct?
Consider accidental electrical causes.
And did you consider those?
I did.
And did you ultimately rule them out?
That's correct, yes.
The next conclusion on page 3 of your report talks about that bypass meter, right?
Correct.
What do you say about that?
Basically, I said that the bypass meter, in its state that it was observed during my examination, would not allow for utility power to the structure.
So, at the time of the fire, there's no power.
Correct.
And the next one is what?
That the solar panel array main disconnect being off would not allow power from the solar array to provide power to the structure.
Okay. So the solar array needs power in order to provide backup power.
Correct.
Okay. And then the next one is what about the generator?
That the generator set would not allow for on-site generated power to the structure.
So that would not provide backup power.
There's just, I'm sorry, just objection to all of the leading. It'd be once or twice, but we could just keep it open-ended.
You can ask it differently. Go ahead.
The generator, in its condition at the time of the fire, was it capable of providing backup power to the structure?
No.
And then lastly, I think you talk about the observations and the effect of the ONT line, the Verizon ONT line.
Correct.
Can you indicate what that is?
Basically, the severed line would not allow for any telecommunications or internet-enabled devices to communicate.
Now, given the totality of your observations, investigations, both inside and outside, was what you saw inside and specifically in the basement, was it supported by what you saw on the outside?
Yes.
In what way?
As I mentioned, if a fire occurs while the structure is energized, we can have evidence of arc melting identified as the system fails. By being disconnected from the exterior, from the solar array, from the generator system, from power coming into the structure from the utility, no evidence of electrical failure was observed, and that was supported by the fact that no arc melting was found, and the structure and that space where the fire occurred was de-energized at the time of the fire.
Just lastly, the conclusions that you just talked about with respect to power at the home, and specifically power at the time of the fire, are those conclusions based upon your training and experience both in the electrical field and also with respect to your experience as an investigator in origin and cause?
Yes.
Judge, I have nothing further.
Ross?
Good afternoon. So this wasn't an electrical fire, basically?
That's correct.
Okay. And it wasn't started by the Roomba?
That's correct.
Okay. And what we know is that the fire must have started after the power was disconnected from the home, because otherwise we would expect the alarm to signal, essentially.
We would have expected to find forensic evidence supporting a fire while it was energized in that area, right?
So we know the fire must have occurred after the de-energizing of the house, right?
Correct.
Okay. And you mentioned that the severed, the Verizon line, it deals with the telecommunications and the internet, correct?
telecommunications that Verizon provides, right? to
And,
structure.
sorry, when you say telecommunications, you're talking about like a landline?
It could be a combination of things. You know, there's VoIP service available over the telecommunications line for telephone. It can be for internet service. So it's a general term for encompassing what Verizon can provide to the structure.
And when you say internet service, you're talking about like plugging a computer using an Ethernet cable or Wi-Fi?
Correct.
Okay. It would not affect someone having, let's say, a cell phone and using cell phone service to make a phone call?
It shouldn't affect that, no.
Okay, that's all.
Anything else?
No, thank you, Judge.
All right, sir, you can step down. Thank you.
All right.